Hi, welcome back to Plan9Crunch. I'm Joe Gibson, and every week we read out of a genre novel. Today we'll be reading one of the premier gothic vampire novels, Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu, which notably inspired Bram Stoker when he was writing Dracula. Specifically, this Barnes & Noble Pushkin Press edition says, the dark sapphic romance that inspired Dracula. And yes, it is all those things. Probably our audience is familiar with the tale of Carmilla, but just for some context, Carmilla is a vampire from the Karnstein family. Specifically, she was Mircalla, but she'll also go by anagrams of that name. So Carmilla and I just read this, but Milarca is the other one she goes by for the general's family. So she goes around killing young girls, but also within a sort of scam type scenario where she'll get close to the young daughters of these families and start living with them. There's a lot of sexual tension between Carmilla and the narrator, Laura, which is also one of the main things that sets the book apart from its contemporaries, but also from Dracula, inspired by it. I've heard commentators say that Dracula comes off as unintentionally homoerotic because of what it borrowed from Carmilla. And since I haven't read Carmilla before now, I never understood what they meant by that. Within the original Dracula, there's some things that commentators have been quick to call queer in terms of the demonstrations of same-sex kind of scenarios. Dracula and Jonathan Harker have a weird amount of moments such as that, where Dracula says, oh no, he's mine, when his wives want to prey upon Jonathan. To my part, I never interpret that as necessarily anything intentionally queer. It's more just that's more scary for Harker, the guy who already has opinions of this count that he looks down upon for being, how do we say, not European. But the scenes of Mina and Lucy, before Lucy turns, those actually do. I understand it a bit more now, that it comes from the Laura and Carmilla, not affair, but their friendship, certainly. And actually there is a page I want to highlight that probably gets you to some of that Dracula stuff as well. That's the middle of a paragraph. But we'll start there. Sometimes after an hour of apathy, my strange and beautiful companion, Carmilla, would take my hand and hold it with a fond pressure, renewed again and again, blushing softly, gazing in my face with languid and burning eyes, and breathing so fast that her dress rose and fell with a tumultuous respiration. It was like the ardor of a lover. It embarrassed me. It was hateful and yet overpowering. And with gloating eyes, she drew me to her, and her hot lips traveled along my cheek in kisses. And she would whisper, almost in sobs, you are mine, you shall be mine, you and I are one forever. Then she had thrown herself back in her chair, with her small hands over the eyes, leave me trembling. So page 48, starting on 47, setting the stage for you. I should chime in, the grip of a vampire is emphasized in this novel as being one of the special powers of a vampire. It's used in combat later on, but also here it is used in the seduction of Carmilla. Sorry, of Laura by Carmilla. Are we related? I used to ask. What can you mean by all this? I remind you perhaps of someone who you love, but you must not. I hate it. I don't know you. I don't know myself when you look and talk so. She used to sigh at my vehemence, then turned away and dropped my hand. Respecting these extraordinary manifestations, I strove in vain to form any satisfactory theory. I could not refer them to affectation or trick. It was unmistakably the moment breaking out of suppressed instinct and emotion. Was she, notwithstanding her mother's volunteer denial, subject to brief visitations of insanity? Or was there here a disguise and a romance? I'd read in old storybooks of such things. I'm going to skip ahead for a little bit. When she asked about if they're related, they kind of are. It comes down to it that Laura's mother, maternally, is distantly related to the Karnstein family that Carmilla comes from. So there's also a weird predatory angle that this comes down to that is quite interesting. In any case, I encourage you to read this book. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's also a very brief read. You can read this in a couple hours or over the course of a few days if you have gaps in your work schedule or school schedule. 150 pages, reads very smoothly, like a version of Dracula that's in one POV and slightly less complicated prose. In any case, thank you all for watching. That's a wrap.